The War of 1812 played a major role in freeing our young nation from British shackles. It is often called the Second War of Independence, and it's also been called the Forgotten War. But the significance has not been lost on young students at Peru Central School, where the memory of that event is kept alive every year through a hands-on living history reenactment. Our Jack LaDuke has the story.
Scores of fifth-grade boys put on the 1812 military uniform of the New York troops. Young girls wore long dresses of that olden day, topped off with a sun-shielding bonnet. The historical outfits allowed everyone to easily slip back into time when a naval battle on Lake Champlain sent the mighty British Army back across the Atlantic, ending 2 years of bloody war between 1812 and 1814.
You're living in a little tiny tent like that, carrying your gear, everything on your back. I'm demonstrating the life of a soldier's wife or camp follower. When men were in the Army during this time period, their wives would be faced with trying to run the farm at home by themselves. And wives would consider themselves lucky to be hired by the Army to do laundry, mending, cooking, and nursing.
Having a living history program meant that everybody was in period costume, and that took a lot of cooperation.
The North Country Teacher Resource Center, it's been a concerted effort by the college and area educators to collect what we call the depot so that area schools can use the costumes and the equipment for events exactly like this.
Celebrated historical author David Fitz-Enns of Untitled has written extensively on the War of 1812. He said that a Peru soldier played a big part in the war when they met the enemy in Beekmantown.
The Americans only had 200 regulars along with the New York militia at that time. One of those guys was a guy named Samuel Terry, and he was from Peru, New York. And he fired a shot as the British came over the hill. And the commanding officer of the 3rd Regiment of Infantry, the British Army, was leading, and he shot him dead. Lieutenant Colonel James Willington. And so Peru in particular should be proud of the fact that they were the first ones to blunt the attack of the British on that early time in the War of 1812.
The 7-year-old Living History Day program added a new dimension to their affair on the 200th anniversary of the battle. The students made a cot-to-coffin quilt with patches depicting life in 1812.
Some chose very simple things like an axe, so this one chose a hearth, and they took it home and depicted it with the help of their family, and then I sewed them together.
A soldier used the quilt to cover up with while sleeping or as a shroud for his ultimate sacrifice. Some students could not understand how people got along before iPads or Twitter.
When they think of technology, they think of something that, they can plug in or, that is powered. So we bring the idea across that technology existed at this time in history 200 years ago also, but the technology involved the blacksmith making a better hanger to put a wrought iron kettle on above a fire that was more adjustable, or toys were made then too, and that people were clever and making innovations at their time too. That we don't have the market on being clever and problem solving. People have been doing that throughout history.
Today's students have a special reason for taking part in this living history pageant.
Well, they're honoring their ancestors because it was their members of their family that defended their homes, even though they are not soldiers. I mean, the regular army, and there are a few of those, but the 700 New York militia were farmers and merchants and had no military training really whatsoever, and were totally unprepared to fight as a standing army. And yet they took on the finest army in the world.
The Bicentennial of the War of 1812 is coming up in September. These students have had a history lesson about it that lets them know where they came from and lays down a path for them to follow right after their heroic ancestors. For Mountain Lake Journal, I'm Jack LaDuke in Peru.